Welcome to our Powerful People interview series today, which is sponsored by our premier sponsor, Supernus Pharmaceuticals, and their really deep commitment and support to helping people live well with Parkinson's is impacting our programming and many others every day. So now we can get started, and it is my honor to welcome a true powerhouse in the Parkinson's community, Eli Pollard, the Executive Director of the World Parkinsons Coalition. She's been with them since the inception in 2004, and she's helped steer the organization alongside the world-renowned Parkinsonologist, I hope I said that right, which is a mouthful, and the WPC founder, Dr. Stanley Fahn. Together, they work to grow the WPC from its sole purpose of hosting a triennial global Congress on Parkinson's to its more meaningful place in the community today as a hub for many of the global Parkinson's organizations to connect and intersect. And what is truly unique about the WPC is that it gives all stakeholders a seat at the table and a voice on the issues. Eli has also used the WPC as a model event to lead the meeting industry in a push for organizations to leave a legacy after a meeting, which started when the WPC launched its Make the City Parkinson's Ready program at the conference in Glasgow. And this was the first in the Parkinson's space and in the meeting industry, where front of the house staff at hotels, airports, and transportation companies were trained on Parkinson's so they could better serve the WPC delegates. Eli is thrilled with the opportunity to offer new ideas that haven't yet been explored in the Parkinson's space, to meet the members of the community and watch as leading researchers, clinicians, and people with Parkinson's and others work together to bring us closer to finding the cause of Parkinson's and a cure for the disease. I think you're really in for a treat today to learn about this incredible resource from an incredible person. And I want to welcome Eli Pollard. And Eli, you want to join us? There she is.
Great to be here. Thank you so much, Nina. It's really wonderful to meet your community and happy to be here today.
Yeah, well, I am just so really honored to have you. And my experience with the WPC has been incredible and for our entire staff. So it's really an honor. So I just want to tell our audience today that we're going to have a conversation today. We do want to hear from everybody. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We're going to try our best to get to the questions. Eli, I thought that maybe we could just get started with the conversation because I think through the WPC, you have been really instrumental in highlighting the importance of the team approach to Parkinson's, which has a very broad meaning. But I was wondering if you had an initial Parkinson's connection or what guided you to have such a deep understanding of Parkinson's.
That's a great question. I actually did not have any connection to Parkinson's when I interviewed for my job and to help launch the World Parkinson Congresses. I had spent time working in the nonprofit space, and I was really passionate about advocacy work. I had never worked in the Parkinson's space or in a health space. And I just was very fascinated by the job posting. It was this sort of mysterious, we would like to launch these World Parkinson Congresses and bring the community together. And I thought, well, okay, that sounds really fascinating to me. I love a good challenge, creating something from nothing. And it sort of blew my mind that the community wasn't already coming together. It just seemed a little strange to me. Why weren't they already connecting? So I had a lot to learn. Even in the beginning, we didn't know it was going to work. When I remember in the interview with Dr. Fahn, when he was interviewing me and he said, we don't really know if this idea is actually going to work. We don't know if anyone's going to come to a World Parkinson Congress because it's never been done before, and people just might not even come. And then he said, you know what it means if nobody comes, right? I remember I was in my job interview and he said, do you know what it means if nobody actually comes to the Congress? And I said, I don't know exactly what that means. And he said, it means in 2 years you won't have a job. And I started laughing. I said, so that means I got the job, right? I said, I'm ready for a challenge.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think we didn't know what we didn't know. And part of the reason I think it's been, for me, successful in a way that maybe surprised some people is that I did not have a background in international meeting planning and conventions and conferences. My experience was in, nonprofit advocacy spaces. And so I just came kind of without a framework of being told, this is what you can do and this is what you can't do. I just saw no reason why we couldn't have a meeting where everybody was coming together. And it just, I like a good challenge. So when people tell me it can't work, I'm like, well, how can we make it work? Well, it can't work. I think we can make it work. Let's figure out how to make it work. Let's solve for that problem. So.
Yeah, well, you really stepped up to the challenge and just did such just an incredible job. Well, I've had the good fortune to go to 2 of the meetings so far. Went to Montreal, and then we took a whole team into the Portland conference, and we missed the one in Kyoto, but it was very transformative for our team. But I would love for you to just describe to our audience, because I do think there's still, as though, although you have a lot of people that go, there's still a lot of people that really aren't aware of what the World Parkinson's Congress is and the coalition, and maybe you can describe that in the upcoming meeting.
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity. I could talk about it for days. When we talk about the work we love, it's never ending. So in a nutshell, the World Parkinson Congresses are events. They take place every 3 years. And the idea is we really do want to focus on science and new treatments and care. And so at the core of this is a scientific congress. That is at the core and the heart of it, because that is what we're also excited about, this new research that's coming out. How are we going to actually get new treatments to people so they can live a better quality life? How are we going to eventually one day cure this disease so that we can close the door on this and move on to something else? So at the core of the congresses is a scientific congress. But what we do is when we build out the scientific congress, we really have different, and this has evolved over the years. It didn't start out like this. It's more streamlined now. We have these different tracks where we're looking at basic science, clinical research, and then comprehensive care. We also rank the talks. Is this a high-level scientific talk? Is this a moderate scientific talk, or a crosstalk that would be accessible to someone even without a scientific background? Because we think what's really important is that all throughout the Congress, all through all of the sessions, there are people from all different aspects of the Parkinson's community. We want people with Parkinson's and advocates in the room with the neuroscientists, with the clinical researchers, with the nurses and the PTs and the OTs and social workers, because that's where the conversation is much richer. If you're all looking at the same challenge, or you're trying to solve for the same problem and you're looking at it through your different lens, you're creating a totally different conversation than what would happen if it was a room full of physicians or a room full of nurses or a room full of advocates. And so that was at the heart of the WPC. It was about getting people out of their silos and bringing them together to cross-pollinate, because we feel like that's the best way to move forward with finding solutions. And so we've never wavered on this. At the core of the Congress is always this scientific Congress that's designed very thoughtfully with a number of people from around the world that really help generate, what are the topics and who can be the person to sort of present on that topic in a very accessible manner. And we're very careful about picking presenters and making sure we have a balanced group of presenters that are good at presenting to a broad audience. But around that scientific Congress, which of course is at the heart of the WPC, we have this whole other program that's going on at the same time. And so we have something we call Wellness Way. And Wellness Way is a cluster of rooms that focus on on wellness and self-care. And there are rooms like a renewal room, which has all day long different exercise classes. And it's not just physical exercise, it's vocal exercise, it's physical exercise, it's stretching, it's drumming, it's dancing, it's moving. And we do that because, one, we believe obviously wellness and fitness and exercise of all kinds is crucial to well-being. We also recognize that you can't just go to a Congress and sit in scientific meetings from 9 to 5. You got to get up and stretch your legs. You got to move your body. So part of it is encouraging people to maybe go to that session on exercise, learn about what's happening in the brain when you're exercising, what is about neuroplasticity, who's doing really interesting work, and then go to an exercise class, work out a little bit, go back to another session, maybe go to a round table, have a small discussion. So we try to get people to mix it up, partly because it's just way more fun to do that at a scientific congress than just sit in meetings all day long. So the Wellness Way is that renewal room. It's also a care partner lounge where we invite care partners and family members to come together and share resources and connect and talk to each other. We have always had a massage room, which people are always like, yes, that's a massage room. We have like a massage and Reiki room where people can sit down and have a 15-minute sort of shoulder massage with professional massage therapists from that local community. In Kyoto, our Wellness Way space also included a ping pong room because it was so fun. We'll probably bring that back because people really loved it.
Oh, that sounds
so
like fun. Yeah.
it's great. But also one of the things I like about wellness was interesting is in when we were in Kyoto is that while Rocksteady Boxing and other boxing classes have really taken hold in places like, in the United States and Canada and across a number of European countries, it's very unusual in Japan to do boxing. I mean, it's just like when I talked to some of the doctors on the local planning group about bringing a boxing class to the renewal room, they were a little bit surprised that I would suggest something such as boxing. And I said, no, there's really evidence, there are people who are doing this. This is really an exercise regimen people are loving. And so we actually had 2 boxing classes in Kyoto, and they were jam-packed and they were fun. And someone brought in some taiko drums and they were drumming. So it is fun. You've got this incredibly rich, deep scientific program running at the same time of this other stuff that's going on around wellness and self-care and introducing things to people that they might have not otherwise thought was a good match for them. Like maybe someone's never done Tai Chi, but they have a chance to try it at the Congress. And then they think, oh, maybe that's actually a class I should take. I liked that. I want to try that and incorporate that into my daily or weekly plan. And then while you've got the Congress, this program and the Wellness Way, we also have a whole exhibit space with posters and abstracts presented by scientists and researchers and advocates from across the world presenting about the work they're doing. Some of it just in very early stages. So it's really exciting to see sort of what's out there, and also really important to support, particularly our junior researchers and junior scientists and junior clinicians who are just at the beginning of their careers. We sort of want to, I always say, like, let's wrap our arms around them and shower them with love and funding and grants, because we need them, because if we don't support them, they're going to veer off and study a different disease, which is okay, but we want them to study our disease. We want to study Parkinson's so that they can help us, move faster through to finding a cure. So that's a little bit about the Congress, and the sessions are wide ranging, really. Again, from basic science to clinical, to pretty much any topic on Parkinson's is covered in the Congress.
Yeah. Well, I can definitely attest to that. I mean, attest to that because we did it all when we were there. I love how you do gauge the lectures. So there's something for everybody, and you're not like, if you're not a science person, you're not stuck in a lecture that's too detailed. And then, of course, the renewal room, we were super excited about that. And we were happy when our instructor, Lauren Lewis, got to do her class, her Move and Shout class there. But we also learned so much from so many other people that were there. And just to have people with Parkinson's be able to go up and ask a question in a science-based lecture is just so inspiring. Hearing firsthand from them what their experiences are it's like a magical experience, really, to hear.
I think so too.
Yeah.
What surprises me is that I still hear from scientists, neuroscientists. I mean, this happened at the first Congress in 2006, where we heard from neuroscientists who said, after the Congress, they said, well, this was actually the first time I ever met a person with Parkinson's. And so that was really for us a very powerful experience to see all these young, a lot of them more junior scientists. And I thought to myself, how can you be trying to research a cure for a disease if you don't even know what it looks like in someone when they're walking down the street? You should meet people so you understand and help. They can help you prioritize your research goals and help you figure out where you want to invest your time and energy in trying to solve these problems. But even though that has, I think, gotten better over the years, we still get scientists who come and say, I've really never quite met anybody with Parkinson's. And I'm like, well,
wow. Yeah.
Come to our Congress, we'll introduce you to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, because I think in Montreal, it was like 800 people with Parkinson's. And I remember seeing a junior researcher sitting along the wall one day, and he's like, wow, he's like, it is just a lesson, incredibly educational lesson. I'm just watching people walk down the hallway. And even for me, like, I met this gentleman the other day, I didn't even know he had Parkinson's because his medications were so on, and I had no idea. I thought he was a researcher or something. And today I realized he actually has Parkinson's. I had no idea. I'm just watching how people are physically changing and over the course of the day and over the course of days. So it is also an educational experience beyond just the lectures. Particularly for scientists who are not typically around hundreds and hundreds of advocates.
Yeah. And I think it's also really empowering for the people with Parkinson's to just see how much energy there is going into looking for the cure and looking to make their lives better. So it's just, it's incredible. So what I wanted to ask you about, because I know this Make the City Parkinson's Ready is a big part of what you do. So can you maybe tell us a little, like, what's happening in Barcelona? We have a lot of our audience is from the United States, but we also have a global audience now. So we do have people from all over the world that could be watching this right now or might watch it a little bit later. Can you let them know, how could somebody be prepared to make a trip like that and to experience the conference? And actually, let's talk about when it is too.
Yeah, so actually the conference, the new dates we had to change because of COVID. Like everything, COVID sort of, put a glitch in plans.
Yeah.
So the Congress, the 6th World Parkinson Congress will take place from July 4. I recognize that it's a very big American holiday, July 4 to July 7. It was supposed to be this year. We had to move it to next year. We were very limited in the dates we were able to select. But honestly, I think it's a great way to celebrate, July 4th is in Barcelona. I think it's a perfect opportunity. So our Make the City Parkinson's Ready program did start in Glasgow, which you mentioned in your introduction. And the idea is really that we focused initially just on all of the convention center staff and the hotels, and then the taxi drivers that were sort of really shuttling people around for our Congress. And it's a simple training, but I think your viewers will know this, and obviously you know this, your team knows this. There's still a lot of misunderstanding, misconceptions, very low awareness about what Parkinson's is, what it looks like, what are the symptoms, what might someone experience, especially international travelers who are changing time zones and dealing with medication management. They might be tired, they might be dehydrated. So we started this program in Glasgow, and it was really quite incredible. The Glaswegian sort of community around the hotels and the convention center just loved this opportunity to learn about Parkinson's. Mm-hmm. And we teamed up with the local group. So at that time, it was Parkinson's UK brought in one of their local nurses who did this training. It's a short training, right? It's maybe like 35, 40 minutes of sort of the things you need to know if you're a front of house hotel staff person and you've got people with Parkinson's staying in your hotel, or things you need to know if you're a taxi driver and you've got someone with Parkinson's getting in and out of your taxi, or if you're at the convention center. And so we really, in the training, focus on really the things that are the most essential around if someone's having a problem with speech, or you can't hear them because their voice is soft, or it might be slurred if they're tired or they're having issues with medication. Someone with regards to balance and falls and gait. So thinking about what the structures are in the hotel, making sure spaces are safe, but also what happens if someone falls. What should you do at the hotel? What do you do? How do you help this? How do you best help this person? Yeah. And so we used the example. It was so great because we trained everyone in Glasgow. And I remember talking to the manager of the headquarter hotel, this lovely man who had gone through the training. And he's like, I just thought that training was spectacular. He's like, I reminded my team, it was actually very funny. He's like, I reminded my team this week, during the week of the Congress, if somebody called us from their hotel room to ask for some support, what we would normally do is we would say, come down to the front desk and we'll assist you. He's like, this week we changed the script. The script was, we'll send someone up to your room to assist you, because our assumption is that if they're calling for some support, they might have Parkinson's and not be able to move at that point in time, or they might be off their medication. And so we flipped it and we had extra staff so they could actually go to the rooms and assist people. He's like, we wouldn't normally do that.
Right.
He was also very funny, being a Scottish man in Glasgow who joked about people drinking a lot. He also said, I reminded my staff this week, if somebody tripped or stumbled, you had to assume they had Parkinson's before you had to assume they'd come from the bar. Yeah. He was this manager, a general manager at the hotel, who really didn't know anything about Parkinson's. And he went through the training and he just really picked up some things and really made sure his staff were listening and they were aware, and they modified some things. And he also invited the local fire marshals to come to his hotel and stay at the hotel during the Congress in case there was any sort of fire event. There would actually be fire marshals or firefighters right in the hotel during the Congress. He went above and beyond. Yeah. So when we saw the success of that, and the city of Glasgow was so incredible in supporting that, we realized that we just need to ingrain and make that part of every Congress. That's sort of baked into when we look at cities. Before we select the city, we tell them, all right, this is part of our requirement. You have to, like any of the hotels that we have guests that stay in those hotels, like the convention center. And now we also try to include the local police, the fire department.
Well, that is, I think it's really, you could feel that when we were in Portland, and you could feel that in Montreal. So it's clear that people really do are starting to understand. So I think that's, step by step, you're making inroads into these other communities.
Well, and it matters. And I think that that's part of our legacy, right? Is leaving that body of knowledge behind. In Portland, I just have to share a story with your followers, because I still find this story is so kind of crazy, is that when we were in Portland, we tag teamed with the Parkinson's Resources of Oregon. They did the training for us, and we worked with Holly's team, and they were wonderful. And one of the groups that they trained was the local police department, and the police department actually videotaped the training so they could show other police even after the WPC was long gone, which was wonderful. But what's crazy, and no one really knew about this story, just a small group, is that during the Congress, there was a group of protesters, totally unrelated to the WPC. There was a group of protesters protesting the high cost of rent in Portland. And they had planned to have a protest right outside the convention center, where all of our delegates were going in and out.
Yes.
So the convention center staff contacted me with the local police department. They came to the office during the Congress the first day, and they said, we just got word there's going to be a huge protest tomorrow. And because of the training you did for us, we're concerned about your delegates. We don't want people to have to walk through a crowd of people and feel anxious or feel and maybe trip or fall because there are so many people around in big crowds. And so I said to them, well, who's organizing the protest? Can we just talk to this person? And they said, well, we don't really want to, what did he say? Inflame the situation because he's already upset, with the city, whatever. And I said, well, listen, you got to just talk to people. So I went back to my computer, looked on Facebook to find out about this protest, found the name of the guy organizing it. I called him and I said, this is kind of crazy. I said, but my name is Eli. I'm running the Congress that's going on at the convention center right now. I recognize you have a protest tomorrow. And, my hat's off to you because the rent is too damn high. And I agree with you. And I wish I could protest with you. But my priority is to my delegates. And I'm concerned about them because Parkinson's can, if anxiety or people are nervous, it could impede their walking ability. And you know what he said? My grandmother has Parkinson's. I would never want to put anybody in danger. I'm going to move our protest to the south side of the convention center so that we don't disrupt your delegates.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
But the reality is, I only knew about the protest because we had done the training with the convention center and the police. So they were on high alert. So they alerted me. And then I told them, I called the guy, he's moving the protest. And they were stunned. They're like, what? I said, this is what good communication can do. It's sincere. I was sincere with him and he had a personal connection and he totally got it. So he moved it. I love that. I love that story.
That's an incredible story. And really, like, so many people do have a connection. I mean, it's not an uncommon disease. So it's just about everybody you talk to has some connection. Well, and so, but what I wanted to ask you, I guess sort of moving on from there is just that you are bringing together people from all over the world. And, but obviously we all know that there are certain communities or certain people that are more underserved. And how are you trying to reach out to the greater community and reach new people? And what are some of the things that the coalition is working on?
I appreciate that. That's a great question. There are, the reality is our Congress happens every 3 years and attracts around, 4,000 people. So there are millions and millions of people living with Parkinson's or care partners of someone with Parkinson's who cannot come or don't know about or just aren't interested in coming, whatever reason they're not participating. So a lot of those communities are in situations where they don't have the capacity or the financial, means or the language. There's a language barrier. There are all sorts of reasons that someone might not be able to participate. So we, on a couple of levels, do try to reach, of course, communities. As a small international organization, our focus is pretty much online. So we do serve communities through virtual meetings. I know you do a lot on virtual as well. Mm-hmm. And so by putting things on a platform that are virtual, we hope and work to make those programs as accessible to the global community as possible. We have something called a dual language program that is both in English and Spanish, looking at topics around Parkinson's that are important to people with Parkinson's and their families. We bring in bilingual experts and they speak for an hour in English with slides, and then we pause, and then those people come right back and they do the same talk again in Spanish with slides. So it's our way of getting information into the hands of as many people as possible for free in English and in Spanish, not just translating it, but actually delivering it in someone's language. And so we do try to, we actually launched that program just a year ago, and with the purpose to drive up awareness for particularly our friends who speak Spanish before they come to Barcelona, if they can come to Barcelona. We want to give them a good, base level of knowledge so that when they show up at the Congress, they already know enough to have a conversation and engage and get more out of the actual sessions. And we also do I mentioned in our wellness way, we have a space called our Care Partner Lounge. Mm-hmm. After Kyoto, we got a lot of feedback from care partners that said, I couldn't come to Kyoto, but I loved the Care Partner Lounge in Portland and really was bummed that I couldn't participate in it in Kyoto. So we went out and we surveyed all the care partners in our database and said, if we did something virtually, would you be interested in it? And a huge number came back and just said, yes, I would totally sign on to that. I'd love to hear what you have to say. So we have our virtual Care Partner Lounge. It's pretty low key. It's like no PowerPoint slides. It's like literally experts, meaning people who are care partners as well as health professionals, talking about different topics that are relevant and chosen by care partners in the community. And so certainly trying to reach people, even if they can't make it to the Congress, making sure that they have those resources available to them. And then with regards to the actual Congress itself, we do have travel grants, and we do, as I'm sure you can imagine, we get way more applications for travel support than we can provide. Right. But we had the great fortune after this last Congress, an incredibly motivated group of young people with young onset PD, led by Becca Miller, who's out of Connecticut, and Larry Gifford out of Vancouver. The two of them got together and said, we as YOPD individuals who identify with young onset Parkinson's have really benefited from our WPC experience, and we want to see other people with YOPD attend the Congress, and we don't want financials to be a barrier. We want to help support getting more YOPD people to the Congress, because we're sure that if they get there, their entire advocacy career will just take off, right? And they just have to be in the space to be inspired, and then they'll return home and do great things. And so Becca and Larry helped pull together a whole series of Facebook fundraisers by people living with YOPD for other people with YOPD. And I think combined, they raised like $75,000. It's incredible, which all of that money will then go back out to people with YOPD to be able to get to Barcelona. And I know Larry and Becca are already ready to start reading applications. And so we'll open applications later this fall and, encourage people to apply, not just YOPD. We also have travel grants for health professionals, travel grants for people who don't identify as YOPD. But again, we do get hundreds and hundreds of applications. So it's competitive. So we do encourage people to, if they really want to go, to try and set money aside and think creatively about how to possibly fundraise to help cover costs to get there.
Yeah, that is so great. Well, we'll be keeping an eye on that to let our community know also. And I'm sure they can also sign up for alerts from you too. Absolutely. On your website. Yeah, so something to keep track of. It's going to come up before we know it. So let's see. So I know we're with our late start time, we're a little bit behind, but I really wanted to give you the opportunity. I know you're working on some great projects kind of leading up to the actual Congress. So the first one I wanted to ask you about is the Tulip Project, because we want to get involved. We're planning to do our own Power for Parkinson's Tulip Project at the end of this month for Parkinson's Awareness Month. We're going to get started on that. But can you kind of explain what that's going to be, what that's going to look like? And
yes, I would love to. So your sponsor actually of this entire interview is Supernus Pharmaceuticals. They have also sponsored the Tulip Project. We're really very excited about this. So very simply, we are collecting right now images of people with tulips from all over the world. And you can submit them right through our website. And when I say with tulips, it doesn't have to be a real tulip like what's behind your shoulder, Nina. It could be any tulip. We have people who've made origami tulips. They've colored with crayon tulips. They've painted tulips. They have tulip bulbs. They have wooden tulips. They have whatever tulip. They have a tulip pin, a tulip t-shirt, whatever it is. And it can be any sort of deconstructed tulip that you can think of. And people have been really creative. We have pictures from all over the world. They're absolutely wonderful. You can see it right on our website. And I can share a link, Nina, and maybe we can share a link with people at some point later. You can go right onto the website. It's in English and in Spanish. You can read about it. And then you can very simply have your pictures, take your pictures, and then you can just submit them right into our database. But what's very exciting is that we're using the photos, of course, now to drum up awareness about Parkinson's and using them on social media and sort of driving awareness about this program. But all of these images are going to be worked into a project called the Tulip Garden. So at the Congress, this was actually something I didn't really talk about earlier at the Congress. So not only do we have the scientific program and Wellness Way and the exhibit hall and abstracts, we have a whole space around the Congress that's around creativity. We have an art walk. So we always highlight creativity in different ways at the Congress because we think that creativity is very important for wellness and alongside exercise. And that could be anything. So for one person, it's listening to music. Another person, it's playing music. Another person, it's singing, dancing, painting, drawing, whatever creative outlet you use. And we think that that impacts people's quality of life and living. I mean, I'm sure you've heard these stories, Nina, lots of stories of artists or performers who aren't feeling well or have a tremor or have a symptom, and then they engage in that activity and their symptoms just disappear. So we know there's something quite incredible going on when people engage in creative activities. And so we do encourage and work with artists as we get closer to the Congress. We already have the art exhibits sort of lined up and ready. You know, they're working on preparing them now. So we'll have different art exhibits right at the Congress, but the one that will be at the heart of the exhibit hall will be the Tulip Garden. And it's going to incorporate all of these amazing photographs and images, as well as poems from the I Am poem, which we're working on with some other organizations. We're going to weave in language from poetry. We're going to weave in these photos. And it's going to be this beautiful exhibit highlighting, you know, our community. We have this spectacular community. I mean, you know, as well as I, that we're really fortunate to work with the people we work with, and no one is alone. And we want to showcase this in this garden, how we are all part of this, you know, community together. So the garden is already sort of taking shape as we get these pictures. I have a dedicated staff person who's has an art background and an exhibition background, and she's already mapping out how this is going to take shape and unfold. So we're really excited for people to be able to walk through the Tulip Garden and see in their images and images of friends and people they know from all over the world. So I'm hoping people will submit. And one of the bonuses is if you submit an image, thanks to our sponsor, your name goes into a raffle. So you could win free registration to the Congress or free travel grant, a full travel grant. So that includes help with flight, hotel, and registration. So it's a pretty simple way to get your name into a raffle to win a pretty impactful prize. So hopefully that's enough to entice people to go out and start taking some pictures right away.
Yeah. Oh, maybe I'll just take mine today. No.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that will be great because I remember you had there was a photographer, you had the faces of Parkinson's, and when we were in Portland, and that was just a beautiful exhibit and just showing how diverse this community is, and it could be anybody, you never know who could be impacted, but it's also really empowering, I think, just seeing how strong people are and resilient and determined. So I'm excited to see it. So
Thank you. Good.
That's really great. And then you also, so you have some different, here we have a question. Somebody was asking, what is an I Am poem?
What is an I Am poem? That is a great question. We are going to be opening a page on our website, but I know that a couple of other organizations have pages already on their websites. I Am poem, you can probably Google it and find hundreds of copies. Yep. For our friends who are in the US, you may be familiar with something called a Mad Lib, where my kids love these. They're like poems where there's like a story and there are words missing, and it will say something like, well, I went out the other day to buy and then it'll be like fill in the blank, and it'll say a kind of candy bar, a sticker bar, and then I went home and I sat down on the blank, and you put in the couch or the floor and you sort of fill things in. So these I Am poems are these loose structures where you can fill in different things. So they can be really kind of goofy. They could be very, very kind and very emotional. They could be very meaningful. They could, so it's wide range depending on the mood you're in and how you're feeling when you fill these things in. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we're working with this iron poem, and we'll be weaving poetry in with the tulip garden. And you can imagine in Barcelona, for those who are familiar with Barcelona architecture and art, one thing that Barcelona is very famous for is mosaics and all sorts of, weaving of mosaic and design and artistic. So you're going to see something coming out that may look a little bit, it'll pay homage to the architecture and art in Barcelona, but obviously highlighting our community.
Yes. I love Barcelona and all the Gaudi architecture, and it's so exciting. Yeah. Let's see. We do have a couple questions, and then I also want you to just talk about I know there's some other competitions, but one question from Heidi, who's in upstate New York. She was wondering if it will also be offered, the Barcelona conference will also be held virtually.
That's a great question, Heidi. We will not launch things simultaneously virtually, but we will be taping some of the key sessions and making those available afterward. So there'll be some sessions, not all of the sessions, but some of the key sessions we will record and make them available afterward.
Yeah, that's I know technologically it's very challenging to do that at the same time.
Yeah, I think the harder thing is almost the budgeting. It's really tough to get additional budgeting to do it.
Yes.
And it is technologically tougher, but we definitely plan to record the key sessions in the plenary hall and make those available afterward.
Okay. And here, Robert is asking, he said there's so many resources for Parkinson's, especially on the internet. How can one choose which to support and which to let go?
Well, that question is a little bit, I'm not totally sure if he meant resources as in like organizations or actual educational materials.
I think he might mean maybe organizations. I'm not sure.
That's a great question. So let's say if it's regarding organizations, I'll answer both of them. Let's just say, if it's regarding organizations, we're as the World Parkinson Coalition, we work with all Parkinson's organizations. And so my recommendation is always to people, wherever you live in the world, to start with your local organization. And, whether that's in your city or your state or your province, or if it's just one in your entire country, definitely I encourage you to work with that organization. And if that organization is not giving you what you need, certainly look at other organizations. You can certainly, stretch out and look at other organizations. But I also feel like if your local organization or your regional or national organization is not giving you what you want, that is not okay. And I think it's okay for you as a person with Parkinson's or a care partner to reach out to your organization to say, in a constructive, positive feedback, I think that there are some things that our community needs that we don't yet see you offering. Maybe I can help you build some of those materials, or maybe there are some ways that I can get involved with you. So if your local group is not helping you, instead of just veering and going to another group, it might be good to help them right the ship and figure out how to better deliver what your community needs. As there's always an opportunity to improve in a constructive way. I always say, don't attack the organization. People are doing hard work in nonprofit work, and they're really doing the best they can, usually with very meager resources. So if you're looking for a way to help, volunteering to help, with materials, to help edit, to help raise money, to do whatever it is you are best at doing, that's rather than letting them go, I suggest trying to help. But if it's resources with actual educational resources, what to keep and what to let go, that's a great question. And I am always very leery myself when I see things on the internet. So I really do rely on the source, and I always go to who's providing that source. Is it a reliable source? Is it a reliable organization coming from someone that I can trust? And then I'll review it. And if it seems even questionable, I might then ask my doctor or a colleague and say, all right, this seems to be from a reliable source, but I'm not totally sure I believe it. I might get a second opinion on something. But yes, I'm saying don't use university, Google University.
Yeah. I think that's really good advice. So that was great advice for people. So I totally agree with you. And so that was very helpful. So let's see. So we, well, let's see. I know you have like some different competitions that
We do.
and then and your choir, are these are things that people can think about in advance and get involved in?
Yeah.
Maybe
So
can start thinking about
yeah, so there are a couple of things, and I'll give you just some key dates. I won't focus on the whole series of dates, but the ones that are most coming up the soonest and the most, right in front of us. On August 1st, we're opening two things. One is the application to be a part of our virtual choir, and one is the application to be a volunteer at the Congress. So simply, if you sign up to be a volunteer at the Congress, this is something I find a lot of times partners do. So if a person with Parkinson's and their partner or their spouse are going to the Congress, their care partner may not want to sit in meetings all day long. They might be willing to volunteer. They might say, oh, I'd like to just volunteer and have something to do each day. Volunteers can be anyone, be a person with Parkinson's, doctors, health professionals, rehab specialists, anyone is willing to apply to be a volunteer. We ask that you work over the course of the week. It's 22 hours of volunteering over the course of it's like 7 days as soon as people start arriving. And in exchange, you have free access to the Congress and to lunch every day and to volunteer t-shirts and an incredible experience. The volunteer community is very good. And our volunteer coordinators, if any of them are watching, we love you. You're amazing. They volunteered in Portland and Kyoto, and they're coming back to Barcelona. They're a very tight-knit group. And we only take around 125 volunteers. So once those spots are full, then that application closes. So that's August 1. The other thing on August 1 is our choir. So we do invite people around the world to be part of our virtual choir. And in the past, we've required people to be actually attending the Congress to be able to perform in the choir in Spain at the opening ceremony, which is why the choir practices a song to sing at the opening ceremony. But I think our choir director is rethinking that, and we're looking at perhaps having virtual members of the choir along with in-person members of the choir. So there's a little room for that. So keep your eyes peeled for that. If you'd like to join the choir, our choir director is Judy Spencer, and she's already gearing up and getting ready for the choir. Those are the August 1st dates. And then the August, with regards to the choir and your question about competitions, we do have a song competition that is already open right now, where we invite people all around the world who are songwriters and musicians. If you'd like to write a song for the song competition, you can contribute a song. The winning song gets that's the song that our choir then trains and sings and performs at the opening ceremony in front of thousands and thousands of people. And so I am not a musician. I don't know about you, Nina. I'm not a musician. And I'm flabbergasted when people can literally write songs and all the sheet music and different instrumental pieces. It really blows my mind because that's not how my brain works. I don't have that training. And so last time, I think we had something like 50 submissions of songs that were, I thought, just wonderful. I mean, just all of them are wonderful. I said, I'm so glad I'm not a judge because I cannot choose the best song. There's a lot of adjudicators who have music background, and they have a very strong metrics, and they really look at things and are matrix, and they assess things. And it's tough, but beautiful music and beautiful songs. And so the song competition is on now, and we'll be opening for choir members. And then as soon as we close the choir, we'll have that song picked, and they'll start training on that song to sing together at the opening ceremony. So that's
so cool. Yeah.
It's cool. It's about creativity and weaving that into everything we do. And then the other competition, you mentioned our video competition. We opened that on August 15th. And it was something we started in 2010. And it was a suggestion by one of our Parkinson advocates who just said to me one day, back in like 2009, she's like, I think we should just do a video competition. And I said,
Yeah.
at the time in 2009, I said, I don't even know how to get YouTube working at the time. I don't even have a YouTube account. I don't know anything about video. I said, if you can run it, then we can do it. And I said, I don't have any money either, so we have to do it on the cheap. So we really ran the video competition on YouTube, and had people submit videos. Videos are 3.5 minutes long. They can be on anything related to Parkinson's. We have all the videos on our YouTube page now, back from 2010, 2013, 2016, 2019. We have all the winning videos. We have all the videos, even the videos that were ranked in sort of the top 10 or top 12, and then the winning videos. And I just think the videos are spectacular. Every time they come in, some are super funny, some are really sad, some are really thought-provoking. I'm always stunned by the incredible artistic talent and creativity of our community. These are not just videos created by people with Parkinson's. These are videos created by health professionals and researchers and advocates and care, and sometimes children of adults with Parkinson's. And I just find the videos are such a great way to tell the Parkinson's story. And I hear from people sometimes when they make their videos, and they'll say, I've never told my story before. I've never told my story to my family before. No one's ever asked me that story before, to tell my story, or to tell me how I'm feeling, or to tell, I don't know. And so they said it's really, for them, also cathartic and really important to have that chance to tell their story and share their experience in a video. So the video competition opens on August 15th and closes on January 27th next year. And the winning video will get shown at the opening ceremony as well. So it's a lot of leading up to the Congress and then celebrating the incredible people in our community at that opening ceremony.
Well, I think, just giving everybody, an opportunity to be involved and to just be who they are and support each other is just an incredible, like I said, I just think magical, because that experience I'll never forget it. And I know that our experience as a team, I think we were 6 of us that went there, myself, my co-founder, Susan Stahl, and then 4 of our instructors. And I know they were so inspired, and I really feel like that experience just helped Power for Parkinson's. I mean, we were already in progress, but it's just kept us going and launched us, to further heights, and gave us some great ideas, and just was really, and just seeing how much work there is out there in that space was very inspirational for all of us. So I just feel like we it really contributed to our own success.
I'm so glad to hear that. It's always rewarding to know that things are working and impacting people.
I mean, there aren't too many meetings that you can walk away from and feel that way. I mean, I haven't been to another one. So
yeah, it's nice. In the beginning, when we first started with the Congress, I got a lot of questions from people who would say things like, how do you know your meeting's doing any good? Like, how do you measure the success of your meeting? And I said, it's really hard to measure the success of a Congress like that, because the reality is people are inspired when they're there, and then they go home and they start organizations, and they start blogs, and they write articles, and they engage in clinical research, and they fundraise, and they do whatever. I mean, they do incredible things, and I can't keep track of all of that. It's thousands of people, and then go home and inspire thousands more people, and I can't keep track of that. It's a spiraling effect. But I just hear story after story of people who say they went home inspired and rejuvenated, and really, did new things or more things or better things or more creative things. And I know it's working, even if I can't measure it. You can't always measure everything.
It definitely is. Well, it looks like we're kind of past our time frame, but I do want to ask you if maybe you could give our audience, I don't know if you can come up off the top of your head, but maybe 3 suggestions that you have for living well with Parkinson's, like after everything you've done. What would you say? I didn't give you a warning.
You did not. But for living well with Parkinson's, one is this is something I stick to, and I talked about this at the beginning of the pandemic. Allow yourself a news fast. So give yourself a break from all of the media. I happen to live in Brooklyn in New York, and my phone's been blowing up today because there was some shooting on the subway and everyone was panicked, and it was impossible to not pay attention to the news. But the reality is the news is exhausting. I did not make this up. This comes from a very intelligent, wonderful Dr. Andrew Reel, who's a holistic medicine medical practitioner, who talked about taking a news fast decades ago. And I've always felt like that is a very good, not necessarily specific to Parkinson's. It's good for everyone, actually. Yeah. But I do think for people with Parkinson's as well, really allow yourself a news fast, put your phone away. Don't look at the TV. Don't look at the computer. Don't even read the newspaper. Go for a couple of days. Go for a week. How long can you go where you just let your mind not focus on that and focus on, you can give yourself so much more attention. So that's my one tip. The other tip, of course, is to exercise, of course. And that doesn't mean you have to go run a marathon. It just means if that means walking around the block, then make it a walk around the block. If that means walking a mile, so you're wherever, walk your mile, or swimming, try something that's physical. And I think the third thing is just to be kind to yourself. We're all so hard on ourselves, honestly. And this pandemic has made things even harder. So give yourself a break from the news, get out and stretch your legs, and be kind to yourself, because you're doing the best you can.
Okay. Great advice. Thank you. Thank you. And let's see. And then I think we'll just lastly, let's wrap it up with your website. You want to?
Yes. So we have the Congress website is WPC2023.org. So WPC2023.org. You can find information about the Congress. We are constantly adding information. So if you don't see it there today, come back next week, bookmark it, and come back. And then some of the other stuff I talked about today, some of our other programs are on our coalition site. So the Congress, the organization site, which is worldpdcoalition.org. And you could find stuff about the Tulip Project there, as well as stuff about our song competition and choir information. So okay. 2 websites.
Great. Well, we'll include that in the description below this video. And I think we just had some comments that were sent to me. I'm sure there are a lot more that were in the chat, but I'll just end with these. But Deborah said she loves that people working in science get to hear people with Parkinson's perspectives. And Garden says she loves how inclusive the Congress sounds with specialists from every career field. And Kat said communication is key to so much. So, and I'm sure there are plenty of other comments. So thank you so much for everything you're doing for our Parkinson's community. It really means the world. And what a perfect time to do this right after World Parkinson's Day.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. Yeah. I really appreciate it. And for just a power for Parkinson's, all the work you're doing. And I appreciate the invitation to reach your audience and keep up the good work. We're all in this together. We're all working towards the same end goal. So yes. I love the opportunity to collaborate and talk with you. Thank you so much.